Hello, everyone. It's season time. Welcome to episode 130 of Bucs UK TV. Phil, Dan, and Alex are with me, and this is the week where Bucs UK members get to have their say about how they think the season's going. Phil, Dan, and Adam, you all did the survey, didn't you?
Yes, we did.
Yeah, we did.
And so did I think about 50 others of you. So we're going to go straight into it, and we'll see what the members think is coming for the year. But before I do that, though, it is a very important year for the Bucs UK. I don't know if you're aware, I listed it probably. I am sporting the merch. Our members will have received their lovely 40th seasons of the Bucs UK patch, and the pins are in as well. If you like, it's probably a bit shiny. There we go.
Nice.
It's even got two things on the back, so it won't tear your shirt in half. Those are the things that if you want to become a member of Bucs UK, you could get your hold of, and we will be out in Tampa soon, won't we? Phil, I know you're going, aren't you? Dan, you're going?
Absolutely. I'm going in 4 days.
Yeah, and Alex, you're going, but not at that time, aren't you?
I'm hoping to get to the creamsicle game in October. Yeah, that's the target. Yeah.
So those of you in Tampa, there's going to be 115 of us coming to the Broncos game. You'll see us. We'll be the ones wearing all of this stuff all over our bodies. So if you do see us, say hello to us. Okay, without any further ado then, let's move on to talk about the season. This is what the Bucs season looks like. It still gets hard for me to say there's 17 regular season games. The Bucs get the extra home game this year, and thankfully haven't got to travel across the Atlantic to Munich. Munich they win, it's London they always lose. As you can see, home and away, late and early, 4 primetime games. Thursday night football, Sunday night football, and 2 Monday night football games. There's our usual division opponents in there, and I think the ones we're all going to start with, spoilers, going to get a little bit worried about in the shape of those Chiefs and the 49ers back-to-back. Looks like it could be a bit brutal. But let's start off with our predictions. We'll take the season a quarter at a time. So yeah, Alex, Daniel, Phil, myself, we've fed in our predictions, and we think 2-2 or 3-1. The Bucs UK as a whole. Let's starting off with the Commanders. 100%. Not one of us was crazy enough to think that the Commanders were going to take the win. Is that a dream opening, Alex? Do you think for a season?
I think so. I think the only unknown, obviously, is the quarterback. He could be anything at this level, and that is always an unknown. We've had different success rates against these rookies. We had a few good ones last year. In the past, we've struggled. It is unknown, but I do think we should get off to a positive start on next week.
Dan, you agree? Are we thinking it's a whitewash, or we just take the win and move
on? Hopefully, because I'm actually going to be there to whitewash, but I think the last couple of years we've had good luck. Week 1. Vikings last year, 2017. Year before that, we had the Cowboys game, also an opening season win. So let's keep it going.
Yeah, it feels like for some reason in my head we always seem to play the Cowboys opening weekend. Maybe it's just the last few years. Phil, I mean, let's come on then from the Commanders into the Lions. Literally into the Lions' den. I'm sure there's a pun that we'll have all season long. Away, last time we were away, we know how that postseason ended. I mean, there's a reason why one season ends and the next season starts. They're not going to be the same as they were. We're not going to be the same as we are. But we don't think we've got it against the Lions.
I just think it's a really tough place to go at the moment, right? Jared Goff as well. I've got slight question marks around our pass rush, right? And if we don't get that pass rush right and get it going, I think Goff could tear us apart, especially with our cornerback depth and slightly, Zion McCullum. Okay, as our number 2, jury's out, right? I mean, hopefully he makes a step up like they're all saying he's going to do. But we need to have any hope in that game. I think we need a strong pass rush.
Yes, and obviously, I think we could have the best safeties in the league. So,
I would agree with you there.
I agree. Yeah.
So don't throw over the middle. Just throw at Zion. And actually, we did notice last year a few teams started picking on particular players in the secondary. I guess that's sort of, as you say, it's all contingent on when they have the time to do that. Alex, do you think we've got a chance against the Lions?
I think that's probably the toughest away game in the league at the moment. I think even not on our schedule, I don't think there's many places that you're going to worry about going rather than Ford Field. I think they are consistent on both sides of the ball. They've retained pretty much everybody. I do agree with the point about our pass rush. Two of the notes I've made to myself here is that it's a big season for Cansey and Diaby. Both looked the real deal last year, but with Vita, obviously, if those three click, along with the rotating fourth, we're going to be a problem for people all season, including Jared Goff. If they get picked up, people start to work out tendencies and things, then yeah, it could be a long day for sure.
Well, let's just hope JTS doesn't get on the field too much. Oh, did he say that out loud?
You never know, Kieron. Maybe it's his year.
So what stranger things have happened. There's lots of players that have come on late, and you mentioned actually Zaya McCullum. I think he's third-year player, isn't he? And so I think he's like you say, there's progress each year. That's all you can ask for, and yeah, we'll see. I think we don't yet know what the Buccaneers we're going to get. I think from the preseason games, they kept things very close to their chest. You're lucky, rare spotted starter in the wild. And I think the play calling as well, although I think, we're getting off the schedule a bit, but the play calling seemed very vanilla, I felt like. So I'm hoping that isn't our playbook. Dan, you agree by the sound of it?
Yeah, I feel like with the Bucs, every few years, the needs of our team rotates. So a few years ago, it was always kicker. It was, oh, we've got this game in the bag. Who was our kicker? Oh, it was Aguayo. Oh, okay. And then it was cornerback, and then it was O-line, and now we're sort of back to D-line and secondary being, well, more cornerbacks in the secondary because we've got really good safeties. But again, if those can step up, then we'll see what happens. But I think with the Lions, they've been sort of our bogey team the last couple of years. We played them twice last season again, once regular season, once postseason, and didn't go our way. So it's an unfortunate L, but I think maybe we can break that streak against them. Who knows?
I mean, one final thing on that Lions game, I guess. I mean, it was close, right? I mean, going into Q4,
it was.
It was kind of, if one or two of those plays had gone our way, or maybe we've had a little bit of luck, it could have been a different story. So, if we play well and they have a slight off day, then we got a chance, right?
It's a really good point. And actually, I think, this Bucs team is better than last year's Bucs team. And that bodes well, doesn't it? So
I think so.
Yeah.
Brilliant. Okay, so 1-on-1, we'll take that. I mean, as we know in the NFL, after week 1, there's 16 teams that are winning the Super Bowl and 16 teams that want to fire their head coach. So you can get to 1-on-1. I think you're probably okay. And then Sean Payton comes to Tampa to face 115 Bucs UK members, and there's not a dry eye in the house. No one's shedding any tears for Sean, at least, but hopefully he'll be crying as he departs with his tail between his legs. Alex, I don't know what to make of these Broncos. I mean, all I know is there's a rookie at quarterback, and the Bucs can sometimes make backups, and rookies look like Pro Bowlers.
I don't think anybody, even Broncos fans, know what to make of the Broncos at the moment. The Russell Wilson experiment obviously didn't work. There's a lot of turmoil since Peyton Manning retired, really, which is a long time ago. They don't seem to know what they want to be. And I think you come back to what we were just talking about with other things. I think we do our thing, and our people play as they can. I think we win the game, especially with you guys in the stands, obviously. But again, we have an off day, as we just talked about. Maybe we the Lions to have an off day. If we're not at our best, they are capable of making plays. But I think it's probably going to be a 2-1 start for that reason.
Yeah. And Dan, are we going to call this one comfortable? Is this one of the easier games of the season, do you think?
Definitely. Broncos don't really have an identity. I think they're a bit all over the place. Easy win. Not much else to say for the Broncos, I guess.
So Phil, we'll be there to see it, and hopefully it's one of those games where the stadium isn't like quite populated by alternate jerseys. Although at least if they're wearing their orange ones, it might blend in.
Yeah, as we all know, when the Cowboys come to town and things like that, it feels like almost like a Cowboys game, doesn't it? But no, I think we should have enough on that one. I think we're better probably on both sides of the ball than the Broncos. But as we said, Bo Nix, a little bit of an unknown quantity. I think the big thing for us in that game is we have to get our run game going. And to me, it looked a little bit better in preseason. It looked like the gaps were maybe a little bit bigger. Yep. So hopefully, if we're not running it up the gut every single kind of play like we were last year, we've got a chance. But I think that's an important one. I think if we run the ball well, play action opens up, and I think we win the game easily.
I think that's a really good point. Also, just controlling the clock as well. I think.
Yeah.
Not having to chase the game. Well, Phil, let's stay with you and head on to the next one then. As I can see you're the lone wolf to do the NFL Network thing. I won't make you howl. Don't worry, or wear the embarrassing hat. You're the only one that thinks we're going to lose against the Eagles, but our members are pretty 56-44. We're tight.
Yeah, I must admit I'd forgotten what I actually kind of put in the survey, and when I actually did a little bit of kind of thinking about this yesterday, I actually put down that we were going to win it, but I think it's going to be close. So I think they've got a new offensive coach, same as we have. Jalen Hurts, to me, obviously, I think had an off year last year when you compare him to the year before. So I think it's a difficult game. It's one that does worry me a little bit. I can see this one being very, very tight. To your point, I think the stadium's going to have a lot of Eagles fans in there who can get loud. And it's drunk, a really tight one for me, and very drunk and aggressive, absolutely. But I'm sorry that I'm the only one here picking a loss tonight. But as I say, I think it could be close.
We're only in week 4, don't we? It's a long season. Alex, why did you think a win?
I think there's a couple of things actually. I a bit like Phil. I didn't forget what I put, but I do think it will be close. And I think the key, Phil touched on it in the last game. You have to run the ball well. You have to control the field position with the Eagles. And the big worry I had from preseason, rather surprisingly, was Kamara Pumpkin. He was fantastic for the last 2 years, but looked very out of sorts. If you let Jalen Hurts start from the 40-yard line every time, we're going to get ripped apart because it opens up the playbook to anything they've got. And obviously, it's a very dynamic play calling scheme. We need to run the ball well. I think I do agree with what people said. I think Bucky Irvine and Rashad both look decent in preseason. I think Barton on the O-line is a massive upgrade on anything we've had since Ryan Jensen at his peak. And I think that's a big bad man at the front that's going to make some big holes. You're going to need that against the Eagles because you're going to need to kill the clock, as you say, Kieron, and you're going to need to put them back in within 10 yards of their end zone, starting their drives. If we can do those things and we can, as we talked about, pass rush, containing and all the rest of it, you would think we just squeak by. But I agree with Phil completely. I don't think it'll be anything but nervous all the way through.
I guess, Dan, so we're looking at either 2-2 or 3-1 at this point. Do you think at this early point in the season, does that make a difference?
I think it does. I think the first quarter of the season is always, I wouldn't say tune up like you would have in college football, but it's with a new offensive coordinator. We've got Cohen come in. I think we're going to be working out the playbook, seeing what works. I think last year what we saw was we had a regular season loss against the Eagles, but then we came in, the wild card absolutely just flashed them. So I put a W, but again, it can be 50-50 this early in the season. So, but I leant towards a win just from what we saw from the wild card round last year.
Well, hopefully we begin 3-1. Hopefully we begin 4-0. But I think even Bucs UK are pragmatists.
Just one more point on that, Kieron, before you move on. If you look at the fixtures between then and the bye, if we aren't 3-1, we've got to go to an improved Falcons, go to the Superdome, go to Kansas, play San Francisco. It's a bit of a murderer's road from then on to the bye. So you'd really need to get off to the best start we can.
And Alex, you even forgot the Ravens in there as well.
Yeah. And the Ravens, and the Ravens. So, I mean, it's a real... there's always a good team that breaks out of nowhere, and there's always a bad team you think it's going to be good. But
that's it. You do my job for me, so that's perfect. So let's progress on then to Thursday night football away to the Falcons. Again, if you don't know what team the Bucs are going to be yet, I have no idea what team the Falcons are going to be. You might read a clip about them and they are going to walk this division this year, or they might have the number 1 pick and everything in between. So Alex, you thought this was going to be a loss.
I did.
Tell us about the Falcons.
I think when you look at what they started at times last year with Robinson and things like that, it was obviously a dynamic player. We are not traditionally very good on prime time. We tend to always not quite turn up in front of the national audience outside of the Brady years and things like that. But we generally don't perform well on the big stage. That is a tough place to go. It'll be packed. If we go into that 3-1 and they're 1-3, maybe it's different. But I would fancy that we're both something similar. And it's the same thing we've been saying all night, really. If our playmakers are playing well, the run game's going, we're we're stopping people's passing games, then anything's possible. But I just worry that this might be one of those banana skin games where people think we're going to win, and actually it's a tougher game than it looks on paper.
There's always a trap game somewhere, isn't there, where you walk away at the end of the season when you're like, when you're trying to get into the wild card or hopefully secure the division, you point back to one and go coulda, woulda, shoulda, don't you?
Yeah, and it's usually the Saints. Yeah.
We'll come on to that one. Dan, you think the Falcons is a win though?
I think I remember doing the survey, and I think I had one of these two Falcon games as a loss. I know everyone's been saying there's been a lot of changes. The Falcons are going to walk the division. They've got it in the bag.
Hey, don't blame the sides person. I just put what the survey said.
But I'm pretty sure I can't remember which one of these two I changed back to, so they're both wins. But now that I think about it, us Thursday night, we'll see. But this one could go either way. This might even be the one I changed from a loss to a win, and I probably should have changed it back. But
well, a recurring theme in the comments was about staying healthy. Lots of the members said, maybe we haven't got a great deal of depth compared to how we have in previous years, with the exception probably being wide receiver. But even then, dare I say, you don't want Evans or Godwin to go down. But I think this is the point of the season where healthiness is going to be really important. Phil, you thought this was a... Sorry, go on.
With the Bucs, I think with our depth, if one key defensive player can go down, that can change the whole season. I wouldn't say we're that thin at some positions, but say we lost Vita Vea, who's as good in the backups that's going to replace that as a nose tackle? So or even safety wise or cornerback. I mean, wide receivers, we could get 10 wide receivers if they allowed us in, but they
get them on the field at once.
Exactly.
Phil,
the other thing on. Is it Raheem Morris who's
Morris? Head coach?
Yeah, see that's probably why.
Second bite of the cherry. Took a while to get back there.
Yeah, Raheem Morris, Kirk Cousins. To me, it's not a dream team, and that drove me to putting a win. But yeah, I massively take your point. Actually, Thursday night football, it's a scary place.
Well, book the Friday night off to either curl into a ball and cry, or post out lots of Monday night celebration memes with like Friday written over the top.
I would be though. I would be severely disappointed if we lost that game.
I think one of those ones we'll probably know who our Buccaneers are by the time we get to after that game.
100%, and the next game as well, I think.
Yeah, Alex, I mean, there's no one we hate more than the Saints other than Sean Payton at the Broncos. So,
well, I think we've started to break the hoodoo slightly in recent years. Probably since Mike Evans headbutted Latimer and got dismissed. But I think the point that guys are making about injuries is so valid, though. You've got an aging Levante David who, without Devon White, is now pretty much the only recognised linebacker you've got. And if at that age, maybe he doesn't hold up, what have we got there? Like you said, we lose Barton on the O-line. You lose Tristan Wirfs with a twisted ankle for 3 weeks. We're a very different team. So I put a win. I think we go there and I think we run the ball on them. I think these days we cope with Kamara much, much better than we ever have. And I think we can roll in there and pick up the W. But again, like so many of these games, especially conference division games, it could easily go either way. And by week 6, like you say, Kieron, you're going to know what you're dealing with. Are we for real, or are we going to have a rebuilding season?
I'm just pleased there's not going to be Jameis Winston coming on to try and throw a touchdown pass or anything.
You say please, that's 6 points the other way. Yeah.
Eat a W or anything like that.
Oh, crikey, yeah.
Phil, have you been to the Mercedes-Benz, whatever it's called, Dome?
I haven't actually. No, that's one I've got for future years, I think. But it looks a pretty intimidating place to go. And but I think on this one, and again, this was one of the ones that when I was doing my little schedule yesterday, I actually put it down as a win for the Bucs. And I think when I've looked into it a little bit more, right, I think again coming back to Alex's point, if we stay healthy, then I think we can really bully and win in the trenches, both sides of the ball. I don't think they're that strong. Both D-line and O-line. And I think, we win in the trenches, we win that game. So it's going to be an interesting one. But again, I'm more erring on the side of, as the preseason's gone on and everything else, I'm almost a W there.
Okay. Well, I think, again, the reporters that tomorrow's fish and chips, but they reckon the Panthers and the Saints are the ones that are going to be vying for the basement of the division. But they're going to be up for this game. They're going to look at it and say that's the one they want. And dare I say it, we want to come out unscathed, because then we're back to the Ray J. But it is the Ravens coming in now. These Ravens, I don't think these aren't the Ravens of 3, 4, 5 years ago, but they've still got all the ingredients, haven't they, Dan?
Yeah, I mean, Lamar Jackson at QB, how do you stop them? You're really going to have to contain Lamar Jackson in that game. If not, then he's just going to run on you all day long. If our D-line doesn't stop up, there's no contain, there's no spy on him, then it's going to be the same thing, one play after the other. So it's one of those cliche things, but for the Ravens, Lamar Jackson is their key man. So stop him, and you get a hope, the semblance of maybe a win. So
that's a really good point. And one of you mentioned linebackers. I think that's where I would want Devin White back on the field, because for someone to scout Lamar, dare I say it, Levante David maybe has lost a little step, and I don't begrudge him of that. He's still got 5 more steps than I've got. But yeah, Alex, do you agree?
I do. I think again, you put the Monday Night Football logo above Bucs games, and I'm never confident. I just don't think, for whatever reason, we turn up on those big games sometimes. And I think Lamar is probably the closest thing to a prime Mike Vick in the league. And the only way anybody ever stopped him was a guy called Derek Brooks, who was pretty good. Outside of that, nobody in the league stopped him for about 3 years. And this guy's a bit like that. He runs riot. He's a highlight reel. He just maybe doesn't finish the big time at the end of it, or tends to get hurt or whatever. But in these games, like you said, what's this? It's game 7. It is a home game. There won't be a ton of Ravens fans in there by comparison to some of the others, like your Phillies and things like that. But I struggle to see us containing him sufficiently with our secondary as well. So I think we will probably take the ad on that one.
And then
Alex, the other thing that worries me, Kieron, the other thing that worries me about that is you can't just contain the edges with Lamar, right? He runs so well, kind of within the tackles as well. He's just a phenomenal athlete.
They'll collapse the pocket around him, won't they? And he'll just step up. Yeah. But I was going to say, Phil, on the other side of the ball, it's not the Ray Lewis type defense of yesteryear, but they are still I think that's probably the best defense we might be coming up against at that point in the season. Do you think we can score against them?
Again, to me, it just comes back to, can we run the ball? We're not going to score against them if we just kind of step back and throw it 45 times, right? We just won't score. If we can run the ball, it's critical. I think it's going to be really tough, and it's going to be one of those games, I think, that, if they score 21 points on us, I think they win the game. I think it's going to be, we're going to have to try and restrict them. If we keep them to 14, we've possibly got a chance. But any more than that, I struggle to see us scoring a lot of points in that one.
Okay, so then after the prime time, we are then back to the Falcons, or they're back to us, but we're playing them for a second time. A bit like we always seem to get the Panthers at the end of the season. We often seem to get those Falcon games quite close in succession. Dan, we all think this one's a win now. So, we think they're coming to us.
Yeah, I'd place a more certain win than the Thursday night game. Not much to say. It's the Falcons. Back at home. Probably a shorter week because of Monday Night Football. But again, are they as strong as everyone else is making out Falcons to be? I don't think so. Kirk Cousins obviously coming off that, or was it Achilles injury last year? So,
I mean, who knows if Kirk Cousins will be playing at that point? There's lots of things that could happen for them, I think. Alex, though, you had it as a loss first time, and now it's a win. Is that the home field, or the season's worn on?
I think it's a bit of everything. It's the prime time element I've talked about a couple of times. It's the home field. And I also think what we've done in recent seasons is we've learnt from the first game. Quite often we seem to have been better game planned in the second game. And I think if they are running a Kirk Cousins-led offense, or by then not, or anything else, as Bijan Robinson started the season well, things like that, I think those things are game planned in. Add in the fact that it's a traditional Sunday early kickoff in Tampa. I think we probably do pick up the win on that one.
Yeah, and hopefully for the early games, it might be starting to cool down in Tampa by week 8 as well. Hopefully, you never know. Only 90 in the shade or something. But so then we sort of reach the hump of the season, or maybe the valley. This is going to be hard, isn't it? So a fairly brutal set of predictions into those back-to-back ones. Phil, Monday Night Football, the Chiefs. Ever since we beat them at the Super Bowl, they've clearly got a grudge.
Yeah, that they have, right? It's another one, if Mahomes plays, if we don't get to him, the only way we won that Super Bowl was by just terrorizing him all night long. And he looked vulnerable that night. Yeah.
To be fair, he had 3 linemen. I think even we can probably recognize.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, but again, it's another one. To Alex's point, it's another kind of Monday night football prime time. It's a hard one. This I can't see us winning this one at all. It's awful.
I think the only way I can see us winning is if we get an early lead. If we can get them chasing the game somehow, make them one-dimensional. I think that's possibly the best thing we can do.
Possibly, which is actually, Kieron, that's a really good point, because last season we did not start fast at all, did we?
We didn't.
And it's going to be an area that we've got to improve upon. And if you do take an early lead against anyone, then it massively helps. And we just played catch up all last year. So no, I mean, it's a good point. We have to start faster.
Yeah. Dan, the Chiefs, we know who they are. They know who we are. And obviously it's on the road as well. It's a hard stadium to go into. You can't even breathe.
Yeah, I'd say the last couple of years, I'd say at the Chiefs is probably the most difficult environment you're going to go into now, with just being the Chiefs.
Just full of Taylor Swift fans. I mean,
Taylor Swift fans, and just they've exploded with the emergence of Mahomes. It's also a bit. I would say I felt like for a few years we came into an era where we was getting all these run pass option style QBs, running QBs. You had RG3 come in. Then there was just pocket passes, and now you've got Mahomes and Ravens QB in the same league, and you're
they do it all. It's really hard.
Yes.
Alex, how do we beat the Chiefs?
I think what you said is right. I think as much as obviously I totally agree with you that in the Super Bowl they had 3 linemen. I think the other biggest thing was they had another arc-weak QB that day was putting points up like they were going out of fashion, and anybody's going to struggle to keep up with that. Obviously, he's a once-in-a-lifetime player. Baker has traits of that. And again, I think you hit nail on the head. I think a fast start puts pressure on. I think, as Phil said, so many times last year, we would 3 and out, give up a field goal, 3 and out, give up a touchdown. You're 10-0 down at the end of the first or halfway through the second. It's hard because you play calling that you've schemed this all week that you're going to run this and run that, and then all of a sudden you have to put your foot down a little bit, and it gets a bit dramatic. So I think stay in the game, ideally take a bit of an early lead, but again, Monday Night Football, going out there against the Chiefs, it's a very hard one to see us getting anything out of.
So we're praying to the football gods for Patrick Mahomes to get 48-hour amoebic dysentery, but still be fine afterwards. We don't want to break anything.
And Travis Kelce as well. That'd be nice.
You never know, a wide receiver might line up offside and it wins us the game.
So then we're on to week 10. Again, it's brutal. We're at home at least. We will also be home with your Bucs UK. For those not travelling to Tampa and those that just can't get enough, this is our London watch party. So we've got a fantastic venue just off Leicester Square with multiple big screen TVs and as many burgers and wings as you can eat, which given some of our members is quite impressive. The 49ers, it's another hard one. Maybe Dan, let's start with you. 11% of the Bucs UK faithful think we've got a shot.
Yeah, again, thinking back to last year, I think this being our London meetup game is gonna jinx it a bit like the Houston game last year. I remember being on the train 5 minutes later. We've got 30 seconds left of the game. I'm like, we got the Houston. Almost flew my phone across the train carriage. But you've got Brock Purdy, you've got George Kittle in there, so it's multiple weapons to stop. If we can stop their big players, maybe, but again, last couple of years, 49ers have been a perennial playoff team.
I think the 49ers are the best team in the NFL right now. I'm going to go on record and say that.
The only thing I would say, it's almost a game I wouldn't mind in week 1, with the Brandon Ayuk situation, with the Trent Williams situation, all holding out. You don't quite know whether they're going to be playing week 1, suit up or anything. And it just seems like if there's a lot of stuff happening in and around that building at the moment, I would imagine though they get it all ironed out by week 10. So yeah, the only thing is, of course, Brock Purdy. He was brilliant last year. Can he follow it up this year?
That's a good point.
It's a question mark for me. So I think it's like anything. I think we take an early lead. I think we've got a chance, right?
Okay.
And we are at home. Going East Coast is incredibly difficult. Our record out there is not great. At home, you never know. Again, will I even be there then? Don't know.
It's hard to know. I mean, Alex, let's see if we can dig out some incriminating photos of John Lynch and go and see what we can do here.
Just on the 49ers game, I actually wrestled whether to go the other way on this one. I think the Brock Purdy experiment, as Phil said, I think it may be the year that you start to see it crack. I think he's done brilliantly, obviously Mr. Irrelevant and all the rest of it, but I think people will start to scheme against him. He's relatively pocket passer. I think that McCaffrey is the X factor in that offense, and I think he can do it all. Probably the best player in the league. And I think early games in Tampa, going into the bye week, 5-5, 6-4, big difference. I was close to putting this down as a win. I don't think it's a done deal at all. I think it's games like this that you look to the people you've paid big time in the off season, your Winfields, your Wirfs, your Bakers, and this is where you've got to earn that money. The club have tied up an awful lot of cash in these guys, and this is where you want your return. It's games like this where nobody thinks you could do it, and you go out and turn them over.
It's true, yeah. And as you say, 5-5, 6-4. Dan, if we go into the bye at 6-4, is that meeting expectations? Do you think?
100%. I think 6-4 would probably be a dream style with who we've got. Again, but with the Bucs, we see the schedule of we'll go into this bit will be 6-4, 7-3, and then as the season goes, we're 1-6. How's that happened? So obviously, I'm not saying that's gonna be the case this year, but I think this would be sort of a dream scenario, 6-4. Maybe we can get some upset wins, but we'll see. Again, with a new OC, you never know how it shapes up. So, like we thought last year, having a new OC would be good for us, but we ended up doing 2-yard runs up the gut every play. So it was just a bit. I'm watching this again, am I?
and to that point, Daniel, is why I think everyone goes home win against the Carolinas, but we're not there yet. But I just expect a lot more running up the gut on that one. So hopefully it should be nice and easy to defend.
Well, but hopefully the one win on the schedule is hopefully the bye week. I mean, even the old Bucs managed to lose on the bye week. But I think week 11 for a bye week is a good point in the season to have it. After those two games, if we need to regroup or we need to some injuries, that's a good time, I think, to have it as well. It seems like we've got a bit of a Brady hangover. Brady always used to get us a good bye week. Otherwise, it was like something crazy like week 4 or something stupid. So I think that's a good time to have the bye week. And then we'll just cover these ones quickly because it seems like a foregone conclusion according to pretty much everyone. Alex, the Giants, not a team to worry too much about.
No, I don't think so. I mean, I was lucky enough to go to MetLife a couple of times, and it's an impressive place. It can be pretty hostile and stuff, but they are pretty bad in NFL terms, and I think the Panthers as well. 2 away games is never ideal. And one thing I did notice on the schedule actually is we only go to the West Coast once this year, and I think that's massive. I think when you have games where you have the Seahawks, the 49ers, the Vegas, I think that really does drain Tampa, and I think that we show very rarely do we show up on the West Coast. So only having that Chargers game is coming up next is big. But New York, Carolina, not big trips, not really tough opposition. I expect us to beat Carolina twice, like I'm pretty sure everybody does. And that puts us in a good spot coming out the bye week.
So Carolina, Dan, I mean, no one again. All the crazy people of the Bucs UK, have hit the Spirits, and we're all fine. We think the Panthers are going to be a walkover. But again, some of the journalists that maybe actually get paid to do this, they think the Panthers have got a bit of a chance.
I'd have to Google it, but I can't really remember who's on the Panthers anymore. They've had a lot of turnover in the last few years. I mean, who's their starting QB again? Not even I know that.
Wait, it's whoever they've drafted. Whoever they've drafted most recently.
Again, he didn't do too well for them last year. They'll be bottom dwellers. It's again, 100% win for everyone. But I've noticed with the Bucs, sometimes with our division opponents, we either sweep all of them or there'll be that one team we go 500 against. So I'm not saying it's going to be the Panthers, but it could be, because it just sometimes happens. Like last year, it was, I think, the Falcons or the Saints we went 500 against. But
it's
again,
a good point, and the division rankings were super important last year. So yeah, it's a really good point.
And again, I think that the final game we played against Carolina last year was what? It's like 9-0 was the final score.
I can't so boring.
But again, I'm one of those people that don't believe in, it's week 17, let's just not play as we should.
That would be my only change I'd want to make to the schedule, is I'd swap week 17 and 18, because I really don't want to play the Saints at the end, but we'll come to that. Phil, so yeah, just in summary, Giants and Panthers we're not bothered about, agreed?
We always have to be wary, but being Bucs fans and everything, we've supported them over many years, right? We know that, but we should. I mean, we play anywhere near good, then we're easily winning those 2 games.
Okay, so then we're on to the home straight. I've got to get my fingers and toes out there. Is that 7 and 4? 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. 1, 2, 3. I can't count.
Yeah,
whatever, it's 4 losses.
7.
Yeah. So that seems like a good place to be in. A reasonably good division record, depending on how we get on with the Falcons sets, all to play for in the home stretch.
No, that's 8 and 4, isn't it? That was 8 and 4
yes,
at that point.
I knew I couldn't count.
Yeah.
So then the Vegas Raiders, which I still can't get my head around, come to town, and 93% of the Bucs UK people think we're going to do all right against the Raiders. Seems to be like the Raiders aren't the team they were. So much so, they're willing to let Tom Brady buy a ticket and possibly even play. Who knows?
I think if you look at those 3 games coming out of the bye, I think it couldn't have been much kinder. If you have to have 2 away games, those 2 are the games to have. And if you have to have a home game, the Raiders are as good as any. If you have gone into it, I think I had us at 6 and 5 going in, or 5 and 5 actually going into the bye. If you come out and all of a sudden you put 3 wins together, people start to look up and take notice at that time of year. That would put us on 8 and 5 in my predictions. Obviously, I think others have got less. But 8 and 5 with 4 weeks to go, you probably need to win 2 games to make the wild card, maybe 3 from that point on. But I think we win out after the bye. I think we shock the Cowboys, which we'll come on to. But I think aside from that, it's a very nice run in for us.
Dan, do you agree with the Raiders?
Definitely. I mean, who they got starting now? Gardner Minshew. Has he done? He's not done much over the last couple of years. Was at the Jags, didn't work with the Jags. I mean, they've still got Devontae Adams, which he's still, I'd say, at this point, will be a top 10.
Point a pistol
10,
at someone
10,
or crash a car. You know, there's something going to happen to the
yeah,
the wheels always fall off.
And he still needs somebody to throw him the ball.
Cool. Okay. Phil, on to you then, and on to the Chargers. So this one seems a little bit more up in the air. Dan and you have got this as a loss. Tell me why you think the Chargers are something to be afraid of.
So I think that, again, going out East Coast, plus as well, what always tends to kind of jinx away trips is me attending. So I'm at the Chargers and the Cowboys. But I think, again, there's another one when I was looking at this yesterday, and I put this down yesterday as a win. When I actually think about it, it's Justin Herbert, isn't it? He didn't shine last year at all. He struggled. So
I think he's really like Baker Mayfield, or Baker Mayfield's really like him. I think they are, I'm going to say, average quarterbacks that elevate their performance.
Yeah, I think that's fair. Because you see him sometimes, and he can light everything up. I think we've got a chance in this one. I honestly do. It's going to be hard, but I think we do have a chance.
So the peer pressure's got to feel. Dan, are you going to stick with your prediction? Do you think this is a loss?
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I remember this one being as a win first, and I went back and just like the QB situation from them. The Chargers last year weren't as good. I think the Chargers the season before were a lot better. So it was one of those ones where I was like, okay, easy one is the Chargers, and I was, oh wait, who's their QB? And I thought back to a few seasons ago, I'm like, yeah, this actually might be a loss. So it's a very, this one for me is a very 50-50. Out of all the games on the season, this is probably the most 50-50 one we've got on the schedule. If the Chargers come out and play well, then I wouldn't say they can easily beat us, but they've got a chance of being pretty much anyone in the league if they play well with Justin Herbert. So
Okay, well, let's move on to the Cowboys then. Alex, you've got this as a win. I had this as a loss. I think the Cowboys going to the Cowboys Stadium, I don't think it's necessarily as intimidating as some of those other stadiums, but just we don't seem to get on when we go indoors to the Cowboys, do we?
We don't. And I think the Cowboys are the biggest enigma in sport, and I think have been for 20 years. I think this could be the season where Dak Prescott finally loses the starting job there. They've paid so much money for him. They've given him so much time, and he seems to shine and fail in equal measure. My theory behind it was, and I know it's a primetime game, so I'm going against my own rule, was that if we come out the bye with 4 wins, and I think there are 4 very winnable games, we are going to be absolutely flying. And I think you can then go into what I think will be the typically disruptive mid-range 600 record for the Cowboys, the crowd on their back, things that, again, as Phil said earlier in one of the games, you score early and often, as we did in the Brady years there in the first season, that stadium turns on them quicker than any stadium in the league. And if you can get that place booing Dak, you panic him, and he's traditionally not particularly brilliant. And then that's when the boys on the D line can really go to work.
I want to know what odds I can get on Kamada hitting the screen as well, but that's a different conversation for a different day. But so Dan, you had this one as a win, didn't you, for the Cowboys?
Yeah, I think
for the Bucs against the Cowboys.
So yeah, like we said, Dak, Dallas have stars on their team, but for whatever reason, they're just a perennial wildcard team. They never get any further than that last couple of years, or they're missing the playoffs. So
I love their receivers. They've just all got so much attitude.
Exactly. Again, we've beaten them before. We beat them in 2022. Did we play them last season? I can't remember if we did. I'd have
First time we didn't play them in week 1 for about a decade, I think. Yeah.
But again, I wouldn't say this is more of a 60-40 game. If the Cowboys are as good as they say they are, then they might beat us. But we've beaten the Cowboys before. Yeah, we had that in 2022 opening season field goal fest where we won out. But I think we can win this one.
Okay, and then I think everyone thinks we can win the Panthers when they come to us. In fact, I went back through our stats, and this is the first time that we've ever had the Bucs UK faithful saying 200% to 0% we were going to do the double over someone. So that's how much we think the Panthers are going to suck. So I don't think we even need to talk about that. But I think the Saints one as the last game of the season. Again, from my mind, we said it earlier. I called it a trap game, Alex. I can't remember what you said, sort of a hump or something. It's the game that scares me.
Yeah, I think it's the game that scares you and everybody else who's been a Bucs fan for the past decade, because perennially we don't do very well against them. I do think, however, that we've been better against them in recent years. I think some of their stars who've caused us problems over the years, from Drew Brees retiring to Cam Jordan and Latimer getting older, and we have been dominant with our speed. And the one worry I have without Devin White in the secondary, the linebacker positions, is how we maintain that speed. I actually think McCollum has a breakout year at cornerback, and I think that starting pair is fine. The safeties are very good. I'm massively chuffed we brought back Jordan Whitehead. I think he was an absolute superstar in the Brady years. Big loss, and to get him back on a bit of a cost-saving thing is a bit of a masterstroke on Jason Nick's part. These are games where, as we've said before, we could be, if I'm right, you might even be giving Kyle Trask a game by this point at some stage. You know, who knows?
Steady on.
But I think these are games where your big money stars need to. This is where you earn your money. You don't earn your money thumping a 15th touchdown in against Carolina at home. It's games like this where the guys have got to turn up, and you do need to see the stars come out and really put on a show to show that money was well invested.
Now, Phil, just to be clear, you thought this was a loss, but Alex is saying that Trask is playing and Zion McCollum's going to the Pro Bowl. So,
perennially,
I'm worried about Trask starting, and that's why I had it down as a loss. You see,
I see what you did.
No, you know, as we've all said before, right? The Saints, it's always difficult against the Saints. It comes down to, I think, injuries again. How healthy are we? They've got questionable depth, I think, both on their lines again. You know, I think if we're on a roll, I think especially after that bye week, I think, you know, if we can go there and, we get a few W's in the box, then I think, we can win that, definitely, that last game, to hopefully kind of fly into the playoffs.
Brilliant. And so, Dan, I'm just doing my sums quickly. I've just taken my socks off as well. I think you've got us at 12 and 5, which would concur, although the games don't line up. That's what the Bucs UK faithful think. 12 and 5, presumably, is that enough for the division crown?
100%. I don't think anyone else would get 12 wins in this division. The Falcons, if they play as everyone says as good as they are, then they might get 9-10. Again, I think it's early. It's start of season predictions, overreactions. We all say, "Oh, 12 and 5, great, we'll win the division." But we can only see what happens week 1 at the end of the day. And when it comes to the Saints on the very final week of the season, if we are division winners, I have put it down as a win. But I know teams tend to be like, game 18, also 17, but week 18, we're in the playoffs, we might as well not play this. So it could be a loss. But I'm not one of those ones that believes that we should do that. Like 2 years ago, we went into the playoffs, but we won the division at 8 and 9. I was just like, we shouldn't be proud of technically a losing season, even if we have won the division. So
I'm trying to think back. Was it the Saints at the last week of the season where we definitely weren't tanking for Jameis Winston? I think it might have been. After you. We'll see. And I also saw Chris Godwin catch a touchdown from Jameis Winston in the corner against the Saints, and what I think was probably the season ender on New Year's Eve, and that certainly bumped my New Year's Eve up. But Phil, I'm coming to you because my socks are back on now. I think you said 8 and 9.
Yeah, I did. And this is obviously a few weeks ago. I think now, as I say, I'm a little bit more confident now as I've kind of, as we've gone through, having seen them in pre-season, I kind of like some of and given it's only vanilla stuff, but I kind of like what Liam Cohen's doing. As I say, especially with that run game, it definitely looks a lot better. And so I'm a little bit more punchy now. When I actually did this again yesterday, I came out at 11 and 6.
Okay, that's good.
Yeah, so to me, it looks good. I think, again, what we've all said, let's stay healthy. And if we can, then I think, we can have that good season. You know what? Even if we could get a win week 9, week 10 as well, Chiefs and 49ers, then that will set us up brilliantly going into that bye week.
A really good point. I guess ideally against the 49ers for the conference. I'm not quite sure how many playoff permutations you might be working your way through. Obviously, let us know in the comments your thoughts. We had some comments from some of our other members. So John Davis says the NFC South is still the weakest division in football, which gives the Bucs another great chance for a divisional title and a playoff berth. So I think we agree with that. And everyone's favourite cornhole champ, Alan Reed, says Baker will have a better season than last. Fearful of injuries to the team, particularly Evans. Oh, don't jinx him. We want to get him to 1,000 yards and then wrap him in cotton wool and bubble wrap. Jan Simster, very exciting season ahead. Hopefully the Mayfield and Evans combo will be perfected. And Dougie Lang says, our balance is our strength. We'll have a balanced offense and our defense is just as strong. And I think I've got 2 more. Stuart Blackmore, being underrated will drive the Bucs this season. If we can stay healthy, then I think we make the playoffs again. And then Nigel Smith, who I think may be the person on the right in that photograph, more optimistic than I have been for a while. A deep set of receivers, improved O-line, better run game, and a ballsy QB. Actually, we haven't really talked too much about Baker Mayfield. Alex, I think it's fair to say he won us all over last year. Do you think he's going to carry on where he left off?
He did win us over last year. I think there was a lot of question marks about him when he came in. I think a lot of Bucs fans, probably a lot of Browns fans, probably a lot of Rams fans and everything else had the same expectation where if we can just get the college Baker Mayfield, you've got a real special talent. And I think you saw bits of that last year, hence the contract he's been given. I was in Tampa for Detroit last year, which was like a Detroit home game for the Creamsicle game. And he was terrible, but that was very much the exception, not the rule last year. The leadership he showed with a not, let's be honest, as we were saying earlier, not a particularly amazing set of players around him at times, especially on the O-line. The way he led that team was as impressive as his statistics with passing or touchdowns. I think he does it again. I think he has a better season. I agree with Nigel. I just think we take a step on this year with a run game, with those receivers that are still largely uncoverable in this game. And I keep coming back to the same thing. I think Graham Barton's going to be a Pro Bowler at the end of this year. I think he's going to be the man that we've been missing that will take this to the next level.
Brilliant. Okay. And then, so in terms of number of wins, Dan, so we know where your prediction was, but this is what our members said. I don't want to get too Microsoft Excel with you, but there's the distribution. And actually, a lot of people were in that 11 and 10 wins. So maybe with your 12 and 5, you're a little bit ahead of the curve. I've always said that about you, Dan. You're ahead of the curve.
Yeah, I mean, I was looking at my prediction. Oh, I'm a bit ballsy there, my 12 and 5, but I think with the way Baker Mayfield played last year, I mean, just to go back to Baker Mayfield, I was at the AGM last year, of course, and speaking to people about I don't know about Mayfield. And I said, just look at his games when he played at the Browns. He got them into the, I think it was a division round, he got them furthest in, but he came in and with a few years, he pretty much turned the Browns around. So I was like, I'm not sure what people are that worried about. He's not going to be a Super Bowl QB off the bat, but I think if he gets us to maybe like the wild card division round every second year or something, I would be fine with that. I think that's what he's capable of, as long as we keep the weapons around him, as long as we keep the defense intact, beef up the D-line, then I think wild card divisional, I wouldn't say every year, but I'd say if he plays as he is and we keep him on for a long time, then I think wild card to divisional is possible every year from now on.
Excellent. Let's hope that's the case.
And by the way, that's a great word for him, ballsy, isn't it? Yeah, that sums him up perfectly, right? I mean, because you would want him on your team. You would want him having your back all the time because he fights. And the team love that, right? The team really do kind of get him behind him.
He would do whatever it took to win. He doesn't care about stats, Really good.
I think the key word with Mayfield, I'd say, is stability. I think we've not had that apart from Tom Brady in a long time, and just be able to pick up Mayfield, like, yeah, we can do something with this.
Well, even third year Brady, you could argue, is probably not as stable as last year's Baker, I think. Yeah,
agreed.
No, 100%.
Completely agree. Yeah.
We should have won the Super Bowl twice. Oh, I hate you, Cooper Kupp. Okay, so in terms of easiest opponent, who do you think everyone voted as easiest opponent?
I'm guessing we're going for the Panthers.
Yeah, no surprise there. Look,
wow.
3D pie charts there. Be on my Excel cords. I think the Broncos one is probably just wishful thinking because we hate Sean Payton, but and the Saints one, I don't know who. I think there's 3 people. I don't know what they've been smoking, but we'll see. So hardest opponent. Who do you think out of all the 2 or 3?
The Chiefs.
The Chiefs, definitely.
Yeah, you're right. Just though, people are still very concerned about the 49ers as well. So that's our set of predictions. As I say, do let us know in the comments in the chat below if you disagree with us. The risk of sounding all trendy, do the clicky, subscribey belly thing to make sure if you've made it this far, clearly you like us. So, or maybe you just don't like yourself. But either way, subscribe to us and make sure you come back next time. We will be back next time to review the Commanders game and see how we're shaping up in the season. So thank you, Phil. Thank you, Dan. Thank you, Alex. Thank you guys for joining. And as ever, we always end with Go Bucs.
Go Bucs.
Go Bucs.
Go Bucs.